Driverly.com, unlimited drama series.
My name is Tom Grant, and I'm the kind of guy who notices things. 20 years as a building inspector will do that to you. You learn to spot the hairline fractures before they become structural failures. The problem is, I was so busy checking other people's foundations that I missed the cracks spreading through my own life. It started with the little things. Natalie coming home late from work, claiming overtime at the tech firm where she managed human resources. Her phone face down during dinner. New perfume I never bought her. The kind of details that make your gut twist, but your brain makes excuses for. Tom, you're being paranoid, she'd say, flashing that smile that used to make me forget my own name. David just has us working on this big project. You know how it is. David Kessler, her boss. 45, divorced, drives a Tesla, and wears cologne that costs more than my monthly truck payment. I knew because Natalie bought me the same bottle last Christmas. Funny how she suddenly loved that scent. Our daughter Zoe had started acting strange too. 15 years old, suddenly secretive about everything. New phone, locked bedroom door, whispering conversations that stopped when I walked by. I figured it was typical teenage stuff, but the timing felt off. The house felt different. Cold. Like someone had left all the windows open in winter. Natalie moved through our home like a guest who couldn't wait to leave. She'd sit at the kitchen table, typing furiously on her laptop, and when I'd ask what she was working on, she'd snap it shut. Just boring HR stuff you wouldn't understand. That stung. I may inspect buildings for a living, but I'm not stupid. I read. I think. I notice when my wife stops wearing her wedding ring to work, because it gets in the way of typing. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. I was doing laundry, something Natalie claimed I never did, though I'd been doing my own since I was 12. Found her second phone in the hamper, buried under her gym clothes. The screen lit up with a text preview. Can't wait for tonight. Same hotel? D. My hands shook as I set the phone down. 22 years of marriage, and this is how I find out. Not through some dramatic confrontation or tearful confession. Through a text message and dirty laundry. I could have confronted her right then. Could have screamed, thrown things, demanded explanations. Instead, I did what I do best. I started inspecting, looking for evidence, building a case. Pete Morrison, my old buddy from the fire department, had become a private investigator after his knee gave out. I called him that afternoon. "Tommy boy, what's eating you?" Pete's voice carried that familiar mix of concern and dark humor that had gotten us through 20 years of emergency calls. "Need a favor, Pete, the kind that stays between us." "Ah, the wife?" "Yeah. Say no more. Meet me at Murphy's tonight. Bring whatever you've got." Murphy's Diner sat on the edge of downtown, the kind of place where the coffee was strong and the conversations were quiet. Pete was already in our usual booth, looking like he'd been waiting for this call for months. "So," he said, sliding a manila envelope across the table, "what do you know?" I told him about the phone, the late nights, the cologne, the way Natalie's friends Monica and Jess giggled and went quiet when I walked into rooms. Pete listened without interruption, making notes on a small pad. "David Kessler," he said finally. "I know that name. Divorced about 3 years ago. Messy split. His ex-wife Lisa is a lawyer downtown. Sharp as a razor and twice as cutting. What else? Rumor is he's got a pattern. Sleeps with employees, uses his position to pressure them. Companies covered it up twice that I know of. Your Natalie might not be his first rodeo." The words hit like a punch to the stomach. Bad enough that my wife was cheating. Worse, that she was just another conquest for some predator in a suit. "I need proof, Pete. Real proof." Already on it. He slid a small device across the table. "GPS tracker, magnetic. Stick it under her car. I'll handle the rest." I stared at the tiny black box. This feels wrong. So does what she's doing to you. Tom, you're a good guy. Too good, maybe. But good guys don't have to be stupid guys. That night, I waited until Natalie was asleep, then crept out to the garage. Her Honda Civic sat in the darkness like an accusation. I knelt beside it, feeling under the rear bumper until I found a good spot. The tracker clicked into place with a soft magnetic thud. Walking back to the house, I caught my reflection in the kitchen window. 40 years old, graying at the temples, lines around my eyes from squinting at building plans and code violations. When had I become the kind of man whose wife looked elsewhere for excitement? The next morning, Natalie was different, nervous. She spilled coffee on her blouse and changed twice before leaving for work. "You okay?" I asked. "Fine, just tired. David's got us working late again tonight." "Again?" She kissed my cheek, a quick peck that felt like an obligation. "Don't wait up." After she left, I sat in the kitchen staring at my phone. Pete had sent me a link to a tracking app. A little blue dot showed Natalie's car moving through the city, heading not toward her office, but toward the Riverside Hotel downtown, the same hotel where David Kessler was registered under his company account. I closed the app and poured another cup of coffee. My hands were steady now. The shaking had stopped. Maybe that should have worried me, but it didn't. I was past the emotional part. Now I was in inspection mode. Time to see how deep the structural damage really went. 3 weeks of surveillance had given me everything I needed. Photos of Natalie and David entering hotel rooms, credit card receipts for romantic dinners, text messages that would make a sailor blush. But the real prize was what Pete had uncovered about David himself. "Your boy's been busy," Pete said, spreading files across his desk. "3 affairs with employees in the last 2 years. Company's been paying settlements to keep things quiet. But here's the kicker. He's been skimming from the discretionary budget. Nothing the IRS would care about, but enough to get him terminated if the board found out." I studied the documents. David had been using company funds for his hotel rooms, his dinners, even jewelry for his conquests, all carefully hidden in expense reports and budget allocations. How'd you get all this? His ex-wife, Lisa. Turns out she's been building her own case against him. Something about hidden assets during their divorce. She was happy to share information with another wrong spouse. Lisa Kessler. I'd met her once at a company party years ago. Tall, blonde, with eyes like ice chips and a handshake that could crush walnuts. If David thought he'd gotten away clean from that divorce, he was about to learn otherwise. "Pete, I need you to set up a meeting. Lisa and me. And I want it to happen Friday night at Chez Laurent. The fancy place downtown. That's where your wife and her boyfriend like to play house?" Exactly. The plan was simple, elegant even. Natalie had told me she was going to a work dinner Friday night. David had made reservations at Chez Laurent for 8 p.m. I made my own reservation for the same time, requesting a table with a clear view of the restaurant's main dining room. Friday arrived gray and drizzly, the kind of October evening that made you want to stay home by the fire. Perfect weather for what I had planned. I picked up Lisa at her law office at 7:30. She slid into my truck wearing a black dress that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. "You sure about this, Tom?" she asked, checking her makeup in the visor mirror. "Once we do this, there's no going back." "I'm sure." "Good, because I've been waiting 3 years to watch that man get what's coming to him." Chez Laurent was the kind of restaurant where the waiters wore bow ties and the wine list required a second mortgage. Natalie and I had eaten there once for our 15th anniversary. She'd complained about the prices and said the food was pretentious. Apparently, her tastes had evolved. The hostess led Lisa and me to our table. Perfect view of the dining room, just as I'd requested. At 8:15, David and Natalie walked in. She was wearing the red dress I'd bought her for her birthday, the one she claimed she didn't like. David's hand rested on the small of her back, possessive and casual. "There they are," Lisa whispered. Her voice carried a tone I recognized from my firefighting days. The sound of someone about to unleash controlled destruction. I watched my wife laugh at something David said. Really laugh, throwing her head back in a way I hadn't seen in years. They looked happy, comfortable, like they'd been doing this for a long time, which, according to Pete's investigation, they had. 8 months, to be precise. "Showtime," I said, pulling out my phone. The beauty of modern technology is how easy it makes public humiliation. I'd created a group text that included Natalie's friends, David's coworkers, several members of the company board, and about 30 other people from their professional and social circles. All I had to do was hit send. The message was simple. Having dinner at Chez Laurent tonight. Table 12. You might find it interesting. Within minutes, phones were buzzing all over the city. I could see people checking the restaurant's website, looking at the online reservation system I'd hacked into earlier. Some would come in person. Others would watch the live stream I was about to start. Ready? I asked Lisa. She smiled, and it wasn't a nice expression. I've been ready for 3 years. We stood up and walked over to their table. David saw us first. His face went white, then red, then back to white. Natalie followed his gaze and nearly choked on her wine. Hello, sweetheart, I said, pulling out the empty chair next to her. Mind if we join you? Tom. Her voice was barely a whisper. What are you doing here? Having dinner with Lisa. You remember David's ex-wife, don't you? Lisa, you remember my wife, Natalie. Lisa sat down across from David, her smile sharp enough to cut glass. Hello, David. You're looking well. Expensive suit, new watch. Business must be good. David found his voice. This is inappropriate. We're having a private dinner. Private? I laughed, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. Nothing private about it. In fact, I think a lot of people are interested in your dinner dates, aren't they, honey? I showed Natalie my phone screen. The group text was exploding with responses. People were already sharing photos, posting on social media, asking questions. The restaurant's name was trending on local Twitter feeds. You're insane, Natalie hissed. This is harassment. Is it harassment when a husband has dinner with his wife? Or when an ex-wife catches up with her former husband? I don't think so. More people were arriving now. I recognized faces from David's company, from Natalie's social circle. The hostess looked confused as reservation after reservation claimed tables with views of our little drama. David tried to stand. We're leaving. Sit down, Lisa said quietly. We haven't finished talking. Something in her voice made him freeze. Lisa reached into her purse and pulled out a manila envelope. David, you've been a naughty boy. Expense account fraud, sexual harassment settlements, and my personal favorite, hiding assets during our divorce proceedings. She spread photographs across the table. David and Natalie entering hotels. David signing expense reports. Bank statements showing transfers to personal accounts. The company board is meeting Monday morning, Lisa continued. I've already sent them copies of everything. Your termination letter is probably being drafted as we speak. Natalie grabbed my arm. Tom, please. We can talk about this privately, like adults. Adults? I pulled my arm away. Adults don't lie to their spouses for 8 months. Adults don't steal from their companies to pay for hotel rooms. Adults don't coach their teenage daughters to lie for them. Her face went pale. What are you talking about? Zoe told me everything, Nat. About the coaching sessions. About how you told her to act distant from me. To make me think it was normal teenage behavior. About the money you promised her for keeping your secrets. That was a bluff. Zoe hadn't told me anything. But the look on Natalie's face confirmed my suspicions. David finally found his voice. This is extortion. No, I said, standing up. This is consequences. The restaurant had gone quiet. Every table was watching us now. Phones were recording. The story was already spreading across social media, local news sites picking it up. I looked down at my wife of 22 years. I loved you, Natalie. I would have done anything for you. But you threw it away for this pathetic excuse for a man. So now everyone gets to see exactly who you really are. Lisa stood as well. David, my lawyer will be in touch Monday. We're reopening the divorce settlement. Turns out you hid quite a bit more than we originally thought. We walked away, leaving them sitting at their table surrounded by stares and whispered conversations. The hostess tried to stop us, but I handed her a $100 bill. For the show, I said. Outside, Lisa laughed, a sound like breaking glass. That was even better than I imagined. It's not over yet. Good, because neither am I. I drove her back to her office, then sat in my truck for a long time, watching the rain streak down the windshield. My phone was buzzing constantly with calls and messages. The story was spreading faster than I'd expected. When I finally got home, Zoe was waiting in the kitchen. Dad? My friends are saying there's videos of you and Mom online. Is it true? I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. She had Natalie's eyes, but my stubborn chin. She deserved the truth. Yeah, kiddo, it's true. Are you getting divorced? Probably. She nodded slowly. Good. I was tired of pretending everything was okay. That night, I slept better than I had in months. Saturday morning brought consequences. Natalie came home at dawn, her makeup smeared and her red dress wrinkled. She found me in the kitchen, drinking coffee and reading the local news website on my tablet. Congratulations, I said, turning the screen toward her. You made the front page of the online edition. The headline read, Local Tech Executive Caught in Affair, Expense Scandal. Below it was a photo someone had taken at the restaurant, showing David and Natalie sitting frozen while Lisa and I stood over their table. Natalie's face crumpled. Tom, I can explain. No need. The explanation is pretty clear. You've been sleeping with your boss for 8 months, using company money to fund your little romance and lying to our daughter and me the entire time. It's not that simple. Sure it is. I stood up, refilling my coffee.
I was drunk. I didn't know what I was doing.
Drunk? I have everything on video.
Watch more on Grammarly.com.
Coffee mug. You made a choice. Now you get to live with it. She followed me into the living room. I want you out. This is my house too, and I want you gone. Actually, it's not. I pulled a folder from the coffee table. I had Pete run the property records. The house is in my name only. Has been since we bought it. You might want to call a lawyer. Her phone rang. She glanced at the screen and her face went even paler. David, she answered. I could hear his voice through the speaker, high and panicked. Natalie, we need to talk. The company called. I'm suspended pending investigation. Lisa's lawyers are demanding a forensic audit of all my finances. This is a disaster. I know. Tom ambushed us. He planned the whole thing. We need to control the narrative. Make him look unstable, obsessive. Can you file a restraining order? I laughed out loud. Natalie glared at me and moved into the next room. But I followed, making no effort to hide that I was listening. I don't know, she whispered. He recorded everything last night. He probably has lawyers too. Then we need to hit him first. Make him the villain. After she hung up, Natalie turned to face me. You heard all that, didn't you? Hard not to. You weren't exactly whispering. This isn't over, Tom. You're right, it's not. She stormed upstairs, and I heard her slamming drawers, packing. Good. Let her go to David's place. Let them comfort each other while their worlds collapsed around them. My phone rang. Pete. Tommy, you need to see something. Meet me at the construction site on 5th Street, the old Murphy building. I found Pete standing next to a familiar silver Tesla. David's car parked behind the construction trailer. What's he doing here? I asked. Waiting for you, apparently. He's been calling your phone, your work, even tried to get your address from the city planning office. Man's desperate. As if summoned by our conversation, David emerged from behind the trailer. He looked terrible, unshaven, his expensive suit wrinkled, his hair uncombed. Tom, we need to talk. No, we don't. Yes, we do. This has gone too far. You've ruined everything. I didn't ruin anything. I just showed people what was already there. He stepped closer, and I could smell alcohol on his breath. You don't understand. I could lose everything. My job, my reputation, my future. Should have thought of that before you started sleeping with my wife. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. Natalie said you didn't care about her anymore. She said you were distant, cold. And you believed her? She was lonely. I was helping her. I started laughing. I couldn't help it. Helping her? Is that what you call it? You were using her, David. Just like you used all the others. His face flushed red. You don't know what you're talking about. Lisa told me about the other women. The settlements. The pattern. Natalie wasn't special, David. She was just convenient. He swung at me then, a clumsy, drunken haymaker that I saw coming from a mile away. I stepped aside and he stumbled, catching himself against his car. Feel better? I asked. Pete stepped forward. Maybe we should call this off, Tom. No, David and I are just getting acquainted. I looked at the Tesla, then at the construction site around us. Nice car, David. Must have cost a fortune. Stay away from my car. Your car? I thought everything you owned was bought with stolen company money. Technically, doesn't that make it their car? I picked up a can of paint thinner from the construction supplies. David's eyes went wide. You wouldn't dare. Wouldn't I? I poured the paint thinner across the hood of his Tesla, watching it eat through the expensive paint job like acid through paper. David screamed and lunged at me, but Pete caught him. Easy there, Romeo. You already took one swing. Don't make it two. You're insane, David shouted. I'm calling the police. Go ahead. Tell them how you came to a construction site to threaten a man whose wife you've been sleeping with. I'm sure they'll be very sympathetic. David pulled out his phone, but I was faster. I grabbed it and tossed it into the portable toilet behind the trailer. Oops. He stared at the toilet, then at his ruined car, then at me. This isn't over. You're right. It's not. He stumbled away, probably looking for a phone to call a cab. Pete and I watched him go. Think that was smart? Pete asked. Probably not, but it felt good. That evening, Zoe came home from her friend's house with news. Dad, Mom's been calling me all day. She wants me to tell the police that you've been acting scary and violent. What did you tell her? I told her she was crazy. You're the least violent person I know. You won't even use mousetraps because you feel bad for the mice. I hugged my daughter. Thanks, kiddo. Dad, are you going to be okay? Yeah, I think I am. But even as I said it, I knew this was just the beginning. Natalie and David weren't going to go quietly. They were going to fight back. And when desperate people fight back, they don't worry about collateral damage. I was about to learn just how dirty this could get. Monday morning brought the counterattack. I was drinking coffee and reading the latest news coverage when my phone exploded with notifications. Natalie had posted a long, emotional message on social media, painting herself as the victim of an abusive, controlling husband. After years of emotional manipulation and psychological abuse, her post read, I finally found the courage to seek happiness elsewhere. Now my unstable ex-husband is stalking and harassing me, trying to destroy my career and reputation out of spite. I'm afraid for my safety and that of my daughter. The post already had dozens of shares and hundreds of sympathetic comments. Her friends Monica and Jess were leading the charge, adding their own stories about how controlling and possessive I'd always been. My phone rang. Pete, you seen this? He asked. Hard to miss. She's good, I'll give her that. Playing the victim card perfectly. Yeah, well, I've got a few cards of my own. I'd been saving the audio recordings for the right moment. Over the past few weeks, I'd been recording Natalie's phone calls, her conversations with her friends, her coaching sessions with Zoe. All perfectly legal in our state, as long as one party consents, and I was always one of the parties, even if they didn't know I was listening. Time to play my hand. I started with the recording of Natalie talking to Monica about me, the one where she called me a pathetic loser and said she was only staying married for the financial security. Then the one where she laughed about David's other affairs and said she didn't care as long as he kept buying her things. But the real prize was the recording of her coaching Zoe, teaching our 15-year-old daughter to lie, to act afraid of me, to provide false testimony for a restraining order that would give Natalie leverage in a divorce. Just tell them Daddy has been angry and scary, Natalie's voice said clearly through my phone speakers. You don't have to say he hit you or anything, just that you're worried he might. Can you do that for Mommy? I posted the audio files to the same social media platforms where Natalie had shared her sob story. Within an hour, the narrative had completely flipped. The sympathetic comments turned to outrage. People who had been defending Natalie were now calling her manipulative and abusive. Monica tried to delete her supportive posts, but screenshots live forever. Jess went silent entirely. But I wasn't done. Tuesday was the school's Autumn Festival, a community event where parents gathered to watch their kids perform and socialize with neighbors. Natalie would be there. She never missed a chance to maintain her public image. I arrived early and had a conversation with Jimmy Rodriguez, the school's AV coordinator. Jimmy owed me a favor from when I'd helped him navigate the building inspection process for his home renovation. He was happy to help with my little audio presentation. The festival was in full swing when Natalie arrived. She looked perfect, as always. Designer jeans, cashmere sweater, hair and makeup flawless. She was working the crowd, playing the wounded but brave single mother, accepting sympathy and support from other parents. I waited until the principal took the stage to announce the student performances. That's when Jimmy played my audio montage through the PA system. Natalie's voice echoed across the school courtyard, crystal clear and unmistakable. Tom is such a boring loser. I don't know why I married him. David says his wife was frigid. That's why he needs me. Zoe is being difficult about lying for me. Maybe I should offer her more money. These suburban moms are so gullible. They believe anything if you cry a little. The courtyard went silent. Every parent, every teacher, every student stopped what they were doing and stared. Natalie's face went white, then red, then white again. She tried to run, but the crowd was too thick. Parents who had been comforting her minutes earlier now stepped away, their expressions shifting from sympathy to disgust. "Is that really you, Natalie?" asked Jennifer Walsh, the PTA president. Natalie opened her mouth, then closed it. What could she say? The recordings were clearly her voice, and everyone knew it. She pushed through the crowd and fled to her car. I watched her go, feeling a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. This was the woman I'd loved for 22 years, and she'd brought this on herself. Zoe found me in the crowd. "Dad, was that really necessary?" "Your mother tried to coach you to lie about me in court. She was willing to destroy our family to cover up her affair." "Yeah, I think it was necessary." Zoe nodded slowly. "She called me this morning, wanted me to come stay with her and David." "What did you tell her?" "I told her I'd rather stay with the parent who doesn't lie to me." Wednesday brought news that David had been officially terminated from his position. The company's investigation had found evidence of expense account fraud totaling over $50,000. Criminal charges weren't being filed, but his career in the tech industry was over. Lisa called to update me on the divorce proceedings. "David's trying to claim bankruptcy to avoid the asset recovery," she said. "But we've traced money to offshore accounts. He's not as clever as he thinks he is." "What about Natalie?" "She's retained a lawyer, aggressive type who specializes in high-conflict divorces. They're going to fight dirty. Let them. I've got nothing to hide." But even as I said it, I knew this wasn't over. Desperate people do desperate things, and Natalie and David were about as desperate as they come. Thursday night, I got a call from Zoe. She was at her friend Sarah's house, and she sounded scared. "Dad, Mom and David are at the house. They're going through your stuff, looking for something." Sarah's mom drove by and saw them. "Did you call the police?" "Not yet. I wanted to call you first." "Call them now. Then stay at Sarah's until I get there." I hung up and called Pete. "They're at the house, breaking and entering." "On my way." I drove home faster than I should have, my mind racing. What were they looking for? What did they think they could find that would salvage their situation? I was about to find out. The storm had been building all evening, and by the time I reached my street, rain was coming down in sheets. Lightning flickered across the sky, illuminating the neighborhood in stark black and white snapshots. Natalie's Honda was parked in my driveway, next to David's rental car. Apparently, his Tesla was still in the shop after my paint thinner incident. Lights were on throughout the house, and I could see shadows moving behind the windows. Pete pulled up behind me as I parked across the street. "Police?" he asked. "On their way. But I want to see what they're doing first." We approached the house carefully. The front door was unlocked. They'd used Natalie's key, so technically it wasn't breaking and entering. Smart, but not smart enough. I could hear voices from my home office upstairs. Natalie and David arguing in harsh whispers. "It has to be here somewhere," David was saying. "He's been planning this for weeks. There has to be evidence of what he's doing." "I can't find anything," Natalie replied. "Just building inspection files and boring paperwork." "Keep looking. If we can prove he's been stalking us, harassing us, we can turn this whole thing around." I smiled in the darkness. They still didn't understand. I wasn't the one breaking the law. I wasn't the one who needed to hide evidence. Pete and I crept up the stairs. The office door was open, and we could see them clearly, Natalie going through my filing cabinets, while David searched my computer desk. Find anything interesting? I asked from the doorway. They both spun around. David knocked over a lamp and Natalie dropped a stack of files. Tom. Her voice was barely a whisper. We were just breaking into my house? Going through my private files? Yeah, I can see that. David tried to bluster. We have a right to be here. Natalie still lives here. Actually, she doesn't. She moved out Saturday, remember? And even if she did, you sure don't. Police sirens were getting closer. David heard them too, and his face went pale. We can explain this, he said. I'm sure you can. You're both very good at explanations. The police arrived with perfect timing. 2 officers who knew me from my work with the building department. Officer Martinez and Sergeant Thompson had been on dozens of inspection calls with me over the years. Evening, Tom, Martinez said. Got a call about a break-in? More like unauthorized entry. My estranged wife and her boyfriend decided to search my house without permission. Thompson looked at Natalie and David, both of whom were trying to appear innocent and failing badly. Ma'am, do you currently reside at this address? Well, technically no, but... And you, sir? David's mouth opened and closed like a fish. I was just helping her get some of her things. At midnight, in a thunderstorm? Pete stepped forward. Officers, I've got video of them going through Mr. Grant's private files. Security camera footage from across the street. That was a lie. Pete didn't have any cameras set up, but David and Natalie didn't know that. We weren't stealing anything, Natalie said quickly. We were just looking for what? I asked. What exactly were you hoping to find in my building inspection files? She couldn't answer because the truth would have made things worse. They were looking for evidence of my investigation into their affair, hoping to find something they could use to claim harassment or stalking. The officers took statements from everyone. In.